The top VR game that has captivated the world, Shangri-La, holds many secrets. In this game, the hardcore player Sunraku, along with his spendthrift teammate Arthur and expert player Katsuo, are set to uncover yet another astonishing story. In the previous season, Sunraku and his team defeated the Tomb Guardian to deal with ancient relics and uncover the true nature of the world. Their immediate task is to help Belok upgrade her blacksmith level to that of a master craftsman and to acquire a magical manipulation module. For this purpose, Sunraku, accompanied by 2 rabbits and a cat, ventured into a new map, the Ruins of Lost Glory. Here, Sunraku removed his disguise, and Emul eagerly reverted to her original form. The area is littered with abandoned steel pipes, seemingly constructed during the era of gods, sparking Sunraku's curiosity about why this ancient civilization perished. Setsuna hinted at him to seek Bahamut. Reminded of a professor who had once invited him to explore the real world of the game, Sunraku was initially intrigued. Given the game's challenging and unique triggers for storylines, understanding its universe is crucial to discovering everything on one's own, especially as Sunraku also seeks revenge against one of the 7 mightiest beings. Eventually, Sunraku accepted the professor's invitation, but postponed joining him, citing other matters to attend to and suggesting the professor consult Arthur for more information. The professor left, and Sunraku felt no guilt about potentially betraying his teammates. He was eager to play with the items in his inventory. Just as they were about to search for the magical manipulation module, Belok stopped them. She had pre-investigated the area. Before she could finish, a golem with a built-in cannon appeared. Fortunately, Sunraku dodged quickly, although the golem was not very fast. Sunraku was about to rush in for a quick defeat when Aramis destroyed it with a powerful spell, but nothing was dropped. Belok was frustrated, hitting him with a hammer, complaining that there was no need for a powerful spell against a mere golem. Sunraku agreed, noting that this was just a utility golem. As they spoke, a rock rolled towards Sunraku, suddenly sprouting 3 claws that clamped around his ankle. At the last moment, Belok swung her hoe, sending the mini golem flying, which then exploded without harming Sunraku. However, a larger version of the mini golem appeared, continuously dropping duplicates that swarmed towards them. These golems exploded upon contact, forcing Sunraku and his team to keep dodging. This was just a drain on their stamina. They needed to reach the main body first. As Emil was getting up, a group of spherical golems attacked, and she quickly cast a magic blade spell with her magic book. Aramis came to help, but the golems kept coming, seemingly targeting them. Sunraku had an idea and charged with Belok towards the main body. In almost no time, they reached it, but just as Belok was about to swing her hammer, the giant golem leaped onto a stone pillar. Although Sunraku could jump to that height, dodging the continuously dropping self-destructing golems while jumping was too risky, and Emul couldn't provide support. At a critical moment, Aramis cut down the stone pillar with a sword, causing the giant golem to fall. Before it hit the ground, it jumped away, but Sunraku continued the chase, carrying Belok and wielding his rebirth decapitation sword. He reached the golem's landing spot first and shattered its shell with a flash thrust as it was about to land, but the golem unexpectedly flew off. Sunraku sensed trouble and ran, luckily escaping the explosion radius. This time something did drop, an ugly clay figurine, a small version of the golem that would also explode with a strong impact. Thankfully, Sunraku caught it quickly, otherwise it would have exploded on hitting the ground. Sunraku and his team pressed on to find the magic manipulation module, encountering various golems. Another drop was a female night doll said to attract specific monsters. Aramis continued to flirt with Belok, but Sunraku had no interest in their complicated relationship, just thankful he had brought his decapitation sword. Unbeknownst to them, they had handled all the nearby golems, yet they still hadn't found the workshop and magic manipulation module. Sunraku speculated that since it was a divine-era workshop, it would resemble a production factory, utilizing science for precision work, definitely a critical location. Hence, he had chosen this site. Soon enough, they found an underground entrance, but the depth was seemingly bottomless. While they were hesitating whether to jump or not, Sunraku's 2 teammates had already caught up, eager to kill the bastard. Belok picked up a part from the ground and threw it down the hole. It took a long time to hear the echo, confirming the depth of the pit. Just as Sunraku was contemplating how to jump down, a voice suddenly said behind him that they had a rope. Sunraku turned around and saw his two former teammates, whom he had deceived, causing him to flee in fear. Unfortunately, Katsuo caught him by the neck and pulled him back. These two had found him through the shared storage they had access to. At this point, Sunraku could only kneel and beg for mercy, then introduced the two sides to each other. Belak was the unique blacksmith that Katsuo had desperately wanted but never obtained. Hearing the word unique, Katsuo broke down since he was the only one among the three who hadn't triggered a unique storyline. Now that the three were together, Sunraku simply recruited them to join his quest for the magic manipulation module and to repair the super reactor. Neither had any objections. Sunraku and Arthur immediately formed an alliance and urged Katsuo to jump down first. Katsuo had no choice but to obediently tie the rope. After all, he was an expert player. Surprisingly, the rope was just the right length. After landing and confirming there were no enemies around, he shouted up to the others. Once everyone was down, Katsuo led the way but accidentally triggered the security system. A golem resembling Weatheramon appeared, with the door right behind it. They realized they must defeat it. Aramis stepped forward to show off in front of Belak, but his powerful attack did no damage. However, it didn't matter since Sunraku and the other two were there. Sunraku threw a crosswind blade to shift the golem's focus onto himself and advanced with Katsuo. Belak followed closely, and they both struck the golem from either side. Meanwhile, Sunraku moved behind the golem, which had two large hands shooting cannonballs. It seemed its primary goal was to guard the door, but Katsuo and Belak's interference distracted it. With Emil and Aramis in front, the two launched their special moves. The golem, held down by Belak and Katsuo, couldn't deploy its shield. After taking a direct hit, its body cracked. Arthur seized the opportunity to throw a javelin straight into the crack. The final attacks from the guards were overwhelming. They all laughed together. Arthur retrieved his weapon, a holy spear, one of only 5 hero weapons in the game that could unlock the hero class. Sunraku couldn't help but comment that with Arthur as a hero, the game was doomed. While they bantered, Katsuo was busy unlocking the door. He had a treasure hunter skill for picking locks, though it had a high failure rate, shocking him every time he failed. Fortunately, Katsuo persisted and eventually opened the door, revealing an intact manufacturing facility with precision instruments. The group decided to split up to search for the magic manipulation component. Sunraku approached a machine and randomly pressed a button, resulting in a holographic projection of a monster with an odd shape. Wondering if it was an enemy the locals had once fought, Sunraku, not very knowledgeable about the world, didn't delve deeper. After a long search with no clues, Emil grabbed Sunraku, wearing a disc on her head, and asked if she looked cool. It was something she found under a table. Just as Sunraku was about to discard this useless item, Belak, explaining what the magic manipulation component looked like, caught a glimpse of it and shouted that it was the item they were searching for. Sunraku and Emil were thrilled and began to dance with joy, planning to rush back to Rabbit's. But Arthur and Katsuo restrained them, reminding him of something he had mentioned in an email. Sunraku then had to follow them. After the Weatheramon incident, their related issues became public, causing considerable trouble for Arthur and Katsuo. A group of people were surrounding them, looking for Sunraku. To be precise, they were looking for a rabbit. Katsuo got tangled up by the zoo. Arthur, on the other hand, was entangled by the team of Sunraku's little fangirls. Sunraku inadvertently slipped up and revealed their information to the old man who liked Lolis. At first, Arthur was somewhat upset, but then he thought, maybe they could use this situation to their advantage. They handed the magic manipulation component to Belak, and the three temporarily returned to town. To avoid exposing their identities, Sunraku had to wear this ridiculous outfit in the streets. After arriving in town, Belak and Aramis left first, but Emil insisted on following Sunraku. Just as they finished talking about the zoo, the group of furry weirdos appeared in front of them. The leader was particularly imposing, shouting Emil's name and charging towards Sunraku. Sunraku, terrified, picked up Emil and ran but was stopped by Katsuo and Arthur. Good brothers are there to backstab each other, right? And the quirky group caught up. By then, Sunraku had recognized them and realized their target was actually Emil on his shoulder. Without hesitation, he threw the little rabbit to them. In that moment, Emil seemed stupefied. After all, even mascots are betrayed. and Emil could no longer escape the leader's embrace. Soon after, the Black Wolf's people also arrived, with the captain coming personally, followed by Sunraku's little fangirl. It wasn't long before the professor showed up. Today, with everyone gathered here, it might be a good idea to clear the air. Arthur even booked a private room in advance. Representatives from the various factions were present, with the four major powers meeting together. The Black Wolf captain got straight to the point. They wanted information about the special monster Lucaon. In exchange, they would provide a method to lift Lucaon's curse. Sunraku was immediately interested, and the Black Wolf's ultimate goal was to defeat the nocturnal Lucaon. Unfortunately, so far, no unique monster had been defeated head-on. Considering future freedom to equip, Sunraku began to think about how much information he could reveal, given the unique storylines he held. First, he couldn't leak any information about the rabbits. Otherwise, if the perverted leader found out, his gaming life would be completely ruined. But Katsuo and Arthur already knew about Belok and Aramis. Arthur was more mentally agile than Katsuo, so he couldn't take it lightly. Thus, only the information about Weatheramon and Lucaon remained. Sunraku chose his words carefully, firstly stating that unique monsters couldn't just be defeated through battle, like the previously defeated Weatheramon. To challenge it, one must accept a unique storyline quest, and unique monsters are the core of unique storylines. Lucaon was encountered randomly. The Black Wolf captain speculated that the specific storyline might be hidden on a new continent, added after a major update. Arthur did not completely deny this possibility, but she believed the exclusive storylines on the new continent would involve two yet-to-be-discovered unique monsters. At this point, it was the professor's turn to speak. Currently, information on the 7 strongest types of confirmed unique monsters has been shared. First, there is the nocturnal Lucaon, a unique wolf-like monster. Second is the abyssal Catanid, an octopus-like unique monster. Third is the celestial Chigum, a randomly encountered golden dragon. Although many have seen it, it's difficult to approach because it flies high in the sky. Fourth is the Nether Oxtra. Once, a player sneaked into the royal library of the country that unified this continent. The monster was mentioned in one of the books there. Fifth is the tomb-guarding Weatheramon, which Sunraku and their team defeated. The organization where the professor works has made many speculations about it, but the actual information is not much different from what is circulated online. Upon hearing this, Arthur immediately pulled out a book titled The Book of World Truths, the Tomb Guardian Edition, which contains all the information about Weatheramon. The professor's eyes lit up, and his eager expression only made Arthur more inclined to ask for a high price. The Black Wolf captain also brought up the deal with Sunraku again. Sunraku recalled their battle with Lucaon, describing some of its characteristics, such as having few preparatory movements for physical attacks and faster activation speed than regular monsters. It also has 3 modes of foreclaw attacks and often uses delayed attacks. As Sunraku recounted these details, the Black Wolf captain was shocked. Having fought only once, Sunraku was able to analyze so much information. Katsuo and Arthur both explained that it was because Sunraku was obsessed. Hearing this, the Black Wolf captain became even more interested in Sunraku. However, the most critical point about Lucaon was the move that defeated Sunraku. At that time, Sunraku was clearly out of the attack range, yet his legs were suddenly cut off without even knowing what hit him. Therefore, Lucaon might have some special ability. What exactly it is, they still don't know. But if they could fight it again, Sunraku felt he could analyze more information. Suddenly, the Black Wolf captain had an idea. Knowing that Sunraku and their team had formed a group called Travel Wolves, and since they were all wolves, why not collaborate? But before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the zoo director. The others had already stated their needs, and it was their turn now. Their zoo had only one proposal, which was about the kingdom of deadly rabbits. Rabbits. Sunraku suddenly stood up. The information he had painstakingly concealed was just revealed. Fortunately, the zoo was just a group of weirdos. They were not interested in unique storylines, but only wanted to go to rabbits to pet rabbits. Apparently, their group had also tried to go to rabbits before. The most well-known way was through the unique storyline, Journey to the Rabbit Kingdom. However, if they defeated the storyline boss attacking rabbits, the rabbits would forcibly expel them, and they could never enter again. But Sunraku was not only able to bring talking deadly rabbits outside, but could also repeatedly enter and exit rabbits, which meant he definitely knew some method they didn't. If Sunraku was willing to reveal it, their group could meet all his demands. Sunraku was overwhelmed, but knew he couldn't reveal the special storyline he triggered. He suggested the captain ask Emul instead. However, Emul was already overwhelmed and faint. Sunraku whispered devilishly in her ear, "Want unlimited rabbit special Sundays?" Instantly, Emul woke up, forgetting the pain from before. Sunraku asked her directly if someone expelled after defeating the boss could re-enter rabbits. Emul mentioned it involved rabbits politics, and she couldn't give a clear answer. However, she suggested Sunraku ask Edward, the current king of rabbits, confusing Sunraku because he thought the leader was another person. Maybe the leadership had passed to his son. He asked Emul to inquire from her brother Edward, which seemed a good escape from the captain's clutches for her, and she hurried back. The matter was temporarily settled. Across the room, Arthur and the professor completed their deal. The professor had spent a fortune on a book. Their conversation ended, and Arthur took control, proposing to establish a battle team alliance with the initial teams being their current groups. Surprisingly, everyone agreed and took an alliance oath on the spot. After the others left, only Sunraku, Katsuo, and Arthur remained. Katsuo felt Sunraku had given up their information too easily, not realizing how rare it was to grasp an opponent's patterns, especially for unique monsters. This trade was not equal. Arthur, however, didn't see it as a big issue. The current problem was with the zoo group, who might not distinguish between NPCs and monsters. If they got access to rabbits, it might cause a disaster. Arthur wanted Sunraku to be cautious about sharing information. Sunraku agreed, seeing the alliance as beneficial. Their team had advantages. They were the first to complete a unique storyline, had information on Bahamut, held the storage key and its legacy gear, monopolized the ancient craftsman profession exclusive to Bilak, and had exclusive information on rabbits. Even revealing one could be impactful. Despite being a three-person team, they were poised to reach the top. Arthur's words and sinister expressions spurred Sunraku and Katsuo. They had secrets from each other, like the Rabbit Kingdom information Sunraku hadn't shared with Arthur and Katsuo. After their discussion, they parted ways. Sunraku then remembered Emul hadn't returned, deciding to visit rabbits first. Sunraku planned to gather some materials before heading back. He went to the habitat of the crystal scorpions again, lured all the monsters together, and immediately teleported them to a containment space. This caused the scorpions to collide with each other, resulting in mutual destruction. After a while, he went out again. However, he saw no materials around. Just as he wondered what was wrong, the ground beneath him cracked open and a giant crystal scorpion emerged, launching him into the air with its pincer, depleting his health bar completely. This behavior was completely different from before. As he was about to die, Sunraku could only curse the developers. After exiting the game, he checked the update notifications, and sure enough, the bug had been fixed. It seemed that Sunraku would have to change his plan. Suddenly, a can on the table fell, which Sunraku caught subconsciously. At that moment, he had a new idea for defeating the swarm of crystal scorpions. He immediately started looking up the skill he needed and actually found one. Now, he just needed to continuously test and validate it until he perfected their behavior patterns. After resting, Sunraku returned to the game. His death had sent him back to Rabbits' inn. Emul hurried over to report the situation. Edward needed more time to consider, and Bilak asked him to visit her workshop. Excited, Sunraku took Emul with him. To his surprise, the magical component was indeed worn on the head. Bilak planned to use it to study ancient mechanisms and learn the forging techniques of the gods. Sunraku handed her a comet launcher, which she treasured. Before starting her research, she had a request. As a future master craftsman, Bilak believed she could use these techniques to create new weapons using crystal scorpion materials, which would require a substantial amount of materials. Confident in her ability to create a masterpiece, she even knelt to ask for Sunraku's help, who readily agreed and gave her all his crystal scorpion materials, although he already had 3 dual swords and was interested in different weapons. After speaking with Bilak, Sunraku met with Merchant Rabbit. selling a doll he had found in the wreckage, which turned out to be worth 300,000. If he could find dolls resembling the 7 strongest species, they would be even more valuable, which greatly increased Sunraku's desire to collect. After leaving Roberts, Sunraku bought Emil a magic book as promised. Now Emil could use new spells, and Sunraku could begin his plan against the crystal scorpions. The first step was to level up to unlock the target skill. He and Emil went to Augusol Valley, where they quickly encountered a high-level monster. Sunraku, already skilled from previous battles and assisted by Emil's magic, easily split the monster in two, advancing to level 79 and learning several new skills, including his target skill, Skywalker. After completing the first step, Sunraku told Emil to wait for him. Despite some disappointment, Emil obeyed. Sunraku then returned alone to the crystal scorpion habitat, determined to teach them a lesson. He dropped a crystal and several scorpions immediately jumped out. Sunraku ran swiftly, replaying his plan in his mind. Unlike other poorly designed games, this game adhered to Newtonian mechanics, with inertia and gravity playing their roles. Sunraku led the scorpions toward a cliff and used the skill 7 ships jump. Unable to stop, the scorpions followed each other off the cliff. Though Sunraku shared their fate, he had already mastered Skywalker, allowing him to step through the void and jump again, stabilizing his form. His grand plan for a crystal scorpion massacre was a resounding success,